I play Robert Graysmith, who is a cartoonist for the San Francisco Chronicle at the start of the film, and is, I guess, the equivalent to an intern, kind of, when the ciphers and the letters first start coming in to the newspaper. And he's really on the periphery of the story, and then slowly, as time goes by and more letters come in, he becomes sort of obsessed with the case. And after the case is then finished or given up on, he takes it over under the guise of writing a book and starts to solve the case on his own. Zodiac is about in the late 60s there were ciphers sent to the San Francisco Chronicle along with a letter from someone claiming to have murdered these two kids, and it became a sort of mass hysteria because the ciphers were printed by the San Francisco Chronicle, and it became this obsession and fear of the whole community, and the Zodiac started killing more and sending more ciphers, and slowly he became sort of uncatchable. And it's the story of, I would say, three different people and their search to find this killer. He started claiming, or so they say, he started claiming to be responsible for murders that he really wasn't responsible for. They would be printed in a newspaper, and then he would claim them. He'd send a cipher, and he really did start messing with everybody. I mean, he was in the power position in the end, and they had so little to go on that, yeah, he started taunting them and teasing them, and he would make them run over to one place, and they'd run, and the interesting thing about it was then other people started to claim to be him. So they had like hundreds of different leads, and they didn't know where to go, and they didn't have any of the appropriate things like a cell phone or a fax machine or that we all take for granted nowadays. That's why I say as a joke, like, this is a movie about the advent of the cell phone, because I think if Dave Toschi, if Robert Graysmith, if Paul Avery, if these guys had a cell phone, I think they probably could have caught the guy after the first cipher. And I think that's what's so interesting about it. I think David's vision in terms of the time period and in terms of all his information and his knowledge about the case and all the people involved in it is extraordinary. I mean, it's the shots and just the look of the whole film really does feel as if you're in that time. And it's not this kind of like cheesy kind of choreographed, like, feeling of the 70s, it really feels timeless when you look at it. And I think that has a lot to do with David obviously growing up during that time, knowing about the Zodiac, experiencing those things. I mean, he told me that he remembers police cars following his school bus because when the Zodiac threatened the school children's lives and said that he was going to pick off little kids when they got out of the school bus, he remembers all those things, and I think it's sort of by osmosis, it's oozed into this film, in the look of it and in all the things, down to the very detail. He knows more about your job than you do. I think that goes for every single person, cast and crew. And that's everyone said to me before I worked with him. They're like, he will know more about your character than you do. And I sort of poo-pooed it, but it's true. He is highly intelligent and very detail-oriented and an incredible filmmaker as a result. There were two teams in the movie, it was like sort of Mark and Tony, and then there was Robert and me. And we acted like that a little bit, Robert and I, we grew really close on the film because we were the journalistic part of it, and they were the detectives. You become obsessed with all this stuff in it, just as a result of being around it. So I think at the very end, Mark and I get a little time to work together. We have like 2 scenes that we get to do together, which is unfortunate. But yeah, we all particularly Robert and I like grew very close throughout the filming, and he got to be a little bit more of like a sort of Tinkerbell kind of, because he gets to sort of dance around and have fun and be kind of a court jester around the whole case, and his disinterest in it is his character. So he got to kind of like push and pull with all that stuff. When I first met Robert, I really expected him to be like a lot darker and a lot more, I guess the type of person who would be involved in a situation like this, who'd become obsessed with a case like this, I thought would be a lot scarier. And when I met him, he turned out to be this like sweet, gentle, unassuming, kind man who was like ridiculously complimentary in like a really odd, uncomfortable way for me, and just not anything I expected at all. I mean, but then there were parts of him that were, we would talk for a little while, and if I didn't answer a question he wanted to have answered, he would then kind of slip it in backwards on me in a different way, and I realized, oh, that's the guy, through, though he is kind and generous, like, who, when he needs to get a piece of information, will do almost anything and stay however long he needs to, until you're literally like begging, please let me out the door. Okay, I'll give you the information. And that was where I realized how he got to where he got to with this case. You know, it's like he's persistent. There are so many movies about serial killers. There are so many movies that are terrifying, and then there are really movies that get into your head. And I think this is one of those films that, you know, you think you know what you're getting, and then you'll walk out with something else in your head. And I think that's the real experience of what it's like to be involved in a case like this. And I think it's like a first-hand experience, whereas other movies are movies about it. I think this is like a true testament to it. And I find that really intriguing, and I think that people will go for that in a big way.